Hey there, entrepreneurs. My name is Sushant, and welcome to TrepTalks. Today, I'm really excited to welcome Dan Thompson to the show. Dan is the co-founder and SEO lead of Saltwater Digital. Saltwater Digital is a marketing agency that provides professional marketing strategies and services like website design, SEO, and paid and social ads to help businesses grow quickly. Established in 2014, Saltwater Digital has offices in Vancouver, BC, Calgary, Alberta, but they help clients all over the world. And today I'm going to ask Dan a few questions about his entrepreneur journey and some of the ways his business brings value to its clients. So Dan, welcome and thank you so much for joining me today at Trek Talks. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So, you started this digital marketing agency in 2014. Can you share a little bit about your motivations, how you got the idea, and what's really the story behind starting a digital marketing agency?
Yeah, so we got started originally. I say we because it's myself and my co-founder Steve. We got started originally. I think it was back in probably 2012 or 2011. Basically just building content sites, so niche sites. I was working on a job. My background is engineering, so I was working a job for an oil and gas company, kind of a small entrepreneurial company, and we started kind of just tinkering around building websites, seeing sort of the kind of classic side hustle, if you will. And so we ended up having some success with a couple of them, and so we built a few more out, had some more success, and then somewhere kind of in that period we started. Well, two things happened. The first thing was I got laid off. So I was working for, as I said, small oil and gas company, oil. I think it was, again, I want to say it's 2012 is when oil tanked. And so being in Alberta, that obviously impacts our economy greatly. So I got laid off during sort of that downturn. And at the time I had already kind of built up a one site to start generating, $1,000 a month kind of thing. So I built up a little bit of confidence in this idea that, hey, maybe I can actually make a go of it in terms of just, just with the online marketing thing. So that's kind of how we got started. So we started building content sites. We did that for a number of years. Um, and at some point, I honestly don't know exactly when or how this came about, but we took a client on, so just a local service business. I think it was actually, I think our first client was a freight company who we worked with them for a few years, and then we were just running their ads for a long time. And we recently just actually picked up their SEO campaign again. So this is like 9 years later. Um, so yeah, we just started actually working on that campaign again now. So that's kind of come full circle. Um, and so yeah, we picked up a client, started working with them, kind of figured out like, hey, like this business model is like pretty good. Um, and then shortly after that, our content sites got hammered by a Google update. So we basically went from making $10,000 a month, and then overnight it was less than $1,000. So that was kind of a bit of an eye-opening moment for us. So at that point, we had built up a few clients. We had a small book, so we started kind of offering that more as our core service. So that's kind of how we got started.
So you say do you actually have an engineering background? Like, are you an engineer by profession?
Yeah, I'm a civil engineer, not a very good one, but I am a civil engineer.
And do you have any regrets of like because I mean, it seems like you're not doing any engineering now, besides like business engineering probably, but
No, I think this was what I was supposed to be doing. So
okay.
was I'm glad I went and got that degree. It was a good 4 years of in school, and then obviously you come out of school and you kind of get a good job right away that pays reasonably well at the time. Um, but I think ultimately this was sort of the path that I was supposed to be on. So our the company that, as I said, laid me off, they're actually doing really, really well to this day. At least I think they are. They've expanded and they got a bunch of kind of. It was a tool manufacturing company, so downhole tools for oil and gas, and so they've expanded and they've now got their own manufacturing warehouses all over the city, et cetera. So they obviously rebounded nicely and didn't need me to keep marching forward. But it was good because it was really small and they were really entrepreneurial. So it was, I think our team was 6 or 7 people. And so it really showed me kind of I guess what was required, I guess, to sort of, embark on this. And it also kind of showed me that, hey, a lot of times people don't really know what they're doing. They're just kind of figuring out as they go. And that was very much what was happening at that company, where it was just, sending tools out to the field that, they weren't tested to the way that I would have expected them to be tested. Let's put it that way. So, you just kind of troubleshoot and you do your best to service clients and figure it out as you go along.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of even from like a professional perspective. Many people start out, they may do like an education degree, and they may end up in a profession that's completely different. So yeah, life always follows like a not a straight line.
Yeah,
So you said that yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say very non-linear. I mean, even for our entrepreneurial journey, so we did content sites, we took on clients for a while, and we actually built and sold 2 FBA businesses in between there as well. Um, and so I was actually running an FBA businesses up until about 2.5 years ago, kind of doing SEO, no, I don't want to say part-time, but on the side. And we had two fairly good sized private label, but not private label. We formulated everything ourselves in custom formulations. But so yeah, and then as I said, it's kind of come full circle now where we're focusing back on the agency, and this is our main thing again, which has been really, really nice.
So what can you share a little bit about your services that you're offering at your with your agency?
Yeah, so mostly so SEO, web builds, Google Ads. Those are like our 3 core services. We do paid social as well, particularly Facebook and Instagram for specific clients where we think it makes a lot of sense. Again, not huge spends. We really tailor our services to sort of the small to medium sized businesses. So, we don't have a ton of clients that are spending tens of thousands of dollars a month on ad spend, for instance. We've really kind of dialed into sort of that market where we felt like maybe wasn't getting as much attention as they needed or couldn't afford, whether it's they couldn't afford full time or they couldn't afford, the big time agencies, you know, but still wanted to kind of, get great service and great results. And I think that's kind of what we've always prided ourselves on is that, we do those 3 things really, really, really well, and we're priced very competitively. And I would put our skills up against, pretty well any other agency, small or large, in terms of, being able to execute on Google Ad strategy, local SEO strategies, or web builds.
So it seems like, I mean, it was a conscious decision to stay focused on like a small, medium kind of a business segment. Why not large customers? Because I'm assuming that probably is more favorable in terms of like a higher revenue generation for the agency.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak too much to, the Google Ads probably scales fairly similarly. As I said, my business partner, he runs that, and he's really the guy who's the Google Ads expert. Um, SEO, when you start looking at enterprise SEO, it's certainly much different. It's a much different animal. Um, you know, I think, as I said, our bread and butter certainly is local service businesses. I think the most interesting campaigns that we run though are probably, what I would say probably the $2 to $10 million companies that have content budgets that we can really, use the full resource, or we have enough resources to really aggressively get those nice hockey stick curves when you're talking about sort of the SEO traffic. And again, those tend to be more national brands, and maybe not focused on one individual market, where content marketing actually does work as a top of funnel marketing channel. Whereas again, if you're, let's say you have, you're a plumbing company in Calgary, there's only so many keywords that have a high enough intent that actually makes sense, right? So, you know, so that's really our bread and butter, but certainly the things that kind of, the interesting projects for us are definitely the ones where we can start kind of seeing some of those hockey stick type growth. And again, we have a couple of clients that are like that and that we've seen really good results. And actually, they're our longest term clients, like the ones that we really have almost unlimited runway because there's almost an unlimited amount of work to be done from, from basically generating more organic traffic. We have a lot of clients that have been with us for, 2+ years, running campaigns the whole time. And we're still seeing kind of month over month, year over year kind of growth with them. And that's always nice to see. And again, that definitely makes things easier in a lot of regards when you kind of when you do keep clients around that long and you do see sort of a path forward for them. Whereas some, smaller local businesses, sometimes it's like you run a 12-month campaign and you step back and you look at it and maybe they don't have the resources internally to keep growing, whether that's, the manpower to service, more work, or maybe it's a case where they look back and you look at it and go, okay, we've really hit pretty close to our ceiling in terms of where we're realistically going to get in terms of rankings here.
So SEO is definitely, to me, seems like more of a mid to long term strategy, right? Like if any business who starts doing, investing in SEO, I mean, it definitely takes a little bit of time to get keywords ranked in search engines and things like that. Plus,
Yeah.
you alluded a little bit, Google and some of these other search engines continue to redefine their algorithms, and now with AI, I'm sure there's more changes coming in the future. How have you seen SEO evolve over the last, I would say, like last 5 years or so? Like a new client that comes to you who's looking for organic traffic, how do you advise them in terms of SEO strategy, and how you can help them? Can you share a little bit about your approach to SEO?
Yeah. So again, going back to this concept of we don't run we don't run off our sorry kind of we don't run cookie cutter campaigns for exactly this reason. Every single client that we talk to, there's always different opportunities. So some clients may have a ton of services that you can basically build service pages out for. Some clients may be able to service larger areas. Some clients, there might be opportunity for kind of the higher top of funnel blog content. So it really does depend. As far as how it's changed, I mean, ultimately Google's chief goal, I mean, you can go back even 10 years when we first started doing this. Their primary goal and their purpose is to try to serve customers with the best content that they can, or the best search results that they can. So whether that's, so whether that's, in the form of blog content or service pages or location pages, ultimately Google wants to basically present good results to their users. And I mean, at the end of the day, that's still what they're trying to do. Even with the new SGE, which is the new search box that pops up at the top, which is AI generated and provides which I think is putting a lot of fear into SEOs, especially those who have content sites and things like that are very informational based. Even with that, at the end of the day, they still want to basically make sure that the information they're presenting is the best information that they can, and it serves the user's intent. And so that's what it really comes down to. SEO is trying to figure out, okay, are we basically giving Google the right information and the right, and we're giving them the right page to basically say, hey, this is a really valuable, or this piece of content or this location page matches the search intent really, really well. So as much as it's changed, it's still largely the same in a lot of ways. And unless, I mean, I think the big caveat here is basically unless Google gets kind of knocked off the top rung in terms of search engines, whether that's because people are using ChatGPT to now use search instead of Google, or they're using Bing or whatever it might be. I don't foresee that changing, because at the end of the day, their search business it's $150 billion a year business. That business thrives on that business thrives on people using search, obviously, and then you're then generating ad dollars, and then also it thrives on users landing on websites so that they can generate the display dollars as well. So unless their business model in terms of the financial, the way that they're basically going to monetize their business model changes, I don't really see, as much as things are changing, I still think that there's the opportunities for SEO will continue to, will continue to be present for the next 5-10 years. But again, I don't know that for sure. Who knows? Maybe ChatGPT does take over as the kind of way most people are searching, but I think we're still a very, very long ways away from that.
Definitely. So, so SEO is, I guess, is only one aspect of any marketing, uh, a holistic marketing campaign. I'm
Yeah.
assuming that when a client comes to you for help with marketing, I mean, from a client perspective, they're looking for, they may have a certain goal, right? We want more clients. I mean, any business, basically that's the goal, right? We want more paying clients.
Yeah.
And I want to hire you as a marketing agency to bring me more clients. How do you, what is your conversation? What is your preparation? Do you look at their business holistically and say, yes, we're going to do this much SEO, we're going to invest this much into paid advertising, Google or Facebook advertising, and so forth. Um, how do you create that strategy? I'm assuming it's different for different businesses, but what is your process as an agency for getting ready to advise a client on what's best for them?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the benefits in terms of, I guess, our experience in terms of two things. First of all, just coming from a background of building content sites, um, that's really beneficial because ultimately you kind of kill what you eat, or sorry, you eat what you kill. And also with the Amazon FBA stuff, I think there's a huge benefit in the fact that we've marketed and built our own businesses that are outside of providing basically agency services. Uh, and so, I mean, ultimately, that's kind of given us exposure to other forms and channels of marketing that most agencies and just don't have. And again, whether or not that those channels make sense for specific businesses, again, it's definitely just it's another sort of tool in the tool belt, if you will. But ultimately, we look at SEO. We look at we're going to look at Google Ads. We're going to look at SEO. We might look at some social media advertising, and we try not to push clients into marketing channels that we don't think will work. Sometimes we're wrong, of course. Sometimes, we run an SEO campaign or we run a Google Ads campaign and we go get the data back and go, oh, this didn't work as well as we wanted it to. That definitely can happen. But generally speaking, we try to kind of provide reasonable expectations and we look at it kind of channel by channel. We say, is this a channel that's going to work for this business in a meaningful way? And if the answer is no, then we won't recommend that. And then it's on, and at that point, they need to figure out, well, what other channels should we be looking at? Do we need to be looking at email marketing? Do we need to be looking at organic social? Again, for some of our local service businesses that we work with, what are they doing on the ground? Are they doing flyer drops? Are they doing are they doing flyers? Are they doing lawn, yard signs, those types of things? And some of our clients run, radio advertising campaigns. And we don't advise on those campaigns, but we're certainly well aware of the different marketing channels, and we'll certainly sit down with clients if that's what they want to do and kind of we'll chat through some different options. And again, I think part of the benefit that we provide is because we have worked in so many different channels. Um, that we have some exposure to things that others wouldn't. So yeah, I think that's kind of, I guess, hopefully answers the question.
Um, do you have like any examples or case studies of a business where to show the benefit of running a good SEO campaign, where you took on their project and what was kind of the end result and what it did for them. Do you have
Yeah,
any like such stories that you can share?
yeah. I mean, we certainly, I mean, we've case studies on the site. There's a few that I kind of go back to. One is a company in the healthcare space, and so we've been running content marketing for them for I guess 3.5 years now. So they're probably our longest serving client. And so they operate all over North America. And it's a high ticket item. And so we, through market through this is like, again, whether you're looking at this is the difference kind of between like local SEO and companies where you can do kind of larger content marketing strategies. With them, we've taken their traffic from I want to say they had about 500 organic visits a month, and it's at about 60,000 a month. Unquestionably, it's the highest. The ROI on that it's through the roof. Like we certainly, it was one of our first clients that when we started working with in terms of content marketing. So we certainly undercharged by a lot, but that's okay. We like to use it as a case study, and it's they've been great. They've been good to us, and again, they kind of continue to take our recommendations, and that's been pretty straightforward, right? I mean, SEO isn't that complicated. It's make sure the website's set up well, build links, produce content. And again, content doesn't always have to be blog content. That can be service pages, location pages, other types of supporting content. It can be informational blog content for sure. The client I'm referring to definitely is a case where, we published a ton of informational content, and that informational content has basically established them as a topical authority in the space. So they're, if you're looking at some of the terms that they're ranking for, say in the top 5, the companies that are surrounding them are things like Healthline, WebMD, things like that. They have no business being in the same space as these guys, but because there's such a huge topical authority, because they have so much topical authority on that one specific service that they offer and provide, they're able to basically compete with companies that they otherwise would have no business competing with. And so that's, and that's one of those things that you can't, it's hard to, it takes time. It takes a lot of time to build that up, right? It's links every month, it's content every month. It was going through and making sure that the on page was set up well and done well. And I mean, just candidly, it's not a perfect campaign. Like I was looking at it with one of our employees today. I was kind of walking through some keyword research with her on that today. And there's a ton of things I was walking through and like, oh, like this, we could change this, we could improve that, this could be tweaked, things like that. And so it's always an ongoing process and evolution to try again. Once again, the goal is basically to serve content that makes sense for Google to serve, right? Or to produce content that makes sense for Google to serve for their customers versus the specific keywords. And they're getting better and better at it, in my opinion. I think, like, again, if you go back and look at search results 10 years ago, they're a shell of what they are today.
What do you think about, so I mean, a big part of what you said is, is the ability to create content, relevant content. And now, with ChatGPT and some of these AI technologies that are available in the market that are specifically geared towards writing content and so forth. What difference does that make now in terms of SEO? If I want to create a bunch of content pieces and geared towards targeted towards optimizing certain keywords, utilizing these AIs. I mean, anybody who wants to do can basically do. Does Google penalize any such content? Because I mean, the content is still, I guess, unique. So how does that change SEO going forward? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty loaded question, and there's a lot of nuance there. But I'll give kind of my Cole's notes. First of all, it does change it, obviously. Um, the backstory to that is it's always been relatively easy to mass produce content, whether it's through article spinners or you're using VAs to write content. Producing content is kind of the actual content output itself is, I always tell clients, it's about 40% of the actual work. The first part is, okay, the keyword research, figuring out the content intent, building out the content briefs, then the content gets written. So let's say you use ChatGPT for that, great. Again, and there's right ways and wrong ways to do that. And the wrong way is to just basically let ChatGPT write it and call it a day. It's a tool that can be used to increase the speed and output, but it's just that it's a tool. And then after that, it's got to be edited, formatted, images uploaded, and whether it's, or sorry, I should say media uploaded and posted, and then optimized. So there's 9 steps there, and only one of those was the writing of the content itself. And so a lot of people think, oh, that's a time consuming part, or that's the hard part. And in reality, like, it is a big part of it, but if you kind of break up when we're quoting these things out, and if you were to break up each individual component into sort of the value we place on it in terms of the cost of it, it's about 40%, somewhere between 40%. So maybe let's say we can use ChatGPT, and let's say we have a writer who uses ChatGPT, edits, modifies, tweaks it. Maybe you can cut that cost down to say 25 or 30%. It's still only 10 or 15% of the entire piece of the puzzle. So we're exploring it right now, and actually, we're working. I'm looking at a campaign right now that's going to be heavily, the term programmatic SEO comes up a lot. I think it's a little bit. I don't think people use it in the right context. Using ChatGPT to spin up 100 articles isn't really what that's about. Again, that's one piece of the entire puzzle. But whereas if you're going to kind of automate the whole process, or most of the process, that's kind of where I start to think about that term being used in a more appropriate way, I guess. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely changing SEO. It's going to change. It changes the amount of content that can be published in a day. And I mean, I don't remember what the stat is, but there's I want to say it's like 5 billion blog posts get published every single day. So what's AI going to do to that, right? It's going to exponentially accelerate that. And at the end of the day, of those 5 billion, again, I wish I knew the numbers off the top of my head. I can't remember, but whatever percentage of that, 97% of them or something like that will receive this much traffic. And so, if anything, in many regards, I always tell clients they got to be careful, because one thing that Google is 100%, doing is they care about their crawl budget. And it's going to be more and more important as more and more content gets pushed out onto the web at an accelerated rate. They don't have infinite resources to crawl everything all the time. That's why it can take, a week or a month or, a couple of months to index a new blog post if you just let Google do it naturally, right? Of course, there's, if not to get in the weeds, but of course you can push it to get indexed quicker, but ultimately most people aren't doing that. They're publishing content and they're waiting for it to get indexed. And there's a delay there, and that delay is because Google doesn't have infinite resources. They have a crawl budget. And when they start crawling sites that are populated with hundreds of articles that they deem to be low quality, there's absolutely a quality score that gets assigned to that website, and that absolutely makes a difference in terms of your ability to rank for not only that article but the rest of the articles on your site as well. So it's a fine balance, and there's definitely some really interesting things that we're kind of looking at and exploring and trying to figure out the best way to make use of this technology. But I think for the majority of business owners right now, it's a waste of time for them to kind of try to get in the weeds and figure out, okay, how can I produce hundreds of articles? Because what's more than likely going to happen is that it's not going to be done well, and you're going to end up with, basically a plethora of really, really mediocre articles that are not well optimized, that are not targeting anything particularly well, that Google probably deems to be low quality. And that's not to say, sorry, just to wrap this point up, that's not to say that you can't publish content with AI, or better yet, let me actually rephrase that. That's not to say Google punishes AI content, because they don't. They've come out and said that. They don't punish AI content. They publish low quality content.
Definitely. A more of a broader question, I guess, from a marketing perspective. If you look at the social media platform these days, all the major social media platforms are encouraging that portrait, vertical style, short form clips kind of video.
Yeah.
And it almost seems like people watch the clips that are entertaining, that are, that have some sort of an entertainment, attention grabbing element to it.
Yeah.
To me, it almost seems like these days, there's kind of like businesses need to have an additional marketing role that is, kind of like this entertaining marketer, this special personality type person who can come in, who has that entertaining style format, where they can take the business's value proposition and put that in like different forms of, entertaining short form content. And that I think that's probably a huge return on investment, and the kind of attention that can grab. And I don't see a lot of businesses doing that right now. And do you have any thoughts on this?
I mean, it's definitely not my expertise in terms of, video or short form video. Um, I think, there's kind of two things to sort of, I guess, dissect there. One is like, essentially what you were describing is sort of a personal brand in many senses, where you have someone who's, basically got a personal brand. I think there's a huge value in that. Um, whether it's regardless of kind of what you're doing, I think there's a huge value in personal brand. Again, on any of these social media platforms. Um, as far as short form video specifically, or short form kind of or entertaining content, I think it's really hard to execute on. I think that's probably the why you don't see many businesses doing it, because it's a very difficult thing to uh for, again, like, if you're it's one thing if you're, let's say, like, you're an influencer, or you're selling makeup products to create kind of compelling. And again, even then, you still need to be sort of the personal brand aspect, which doesn't scale very well, and it's really hard to outsource. So I mean, I think there's definitely, yeah, I mean, there's been a few, trying to remember what it was. I've seen a few instances where you kind of get those, a personal brand, or a small business's TikTok takes off. And I've seen a few of those on Twitter over the time, over the past 6 months or whatever it might be, that are kind of viral. And those are kind of interesting, and certainly, must provide massive lifts to the company. I just think it's really hard to do and do well, because otherwise it probably really falls flat. If you're kind of producing mediocre, short form videos. And it's a lot of work. Like, I mean, as you publishing this, this podcast, it's a lot of work, right? If you want to be consistently putting content out there, and that's the only really way to, I mean, at least for me, I find, like, even Twitter, for instance, when I'm on Twitter, and I'm not very consistent at it because it's a ton of work. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll go consistent for a while, then it falls off the radar because I gotta, take care of my actual business. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I guess that's my response. That's not the best person to ask on that, I don't think, just because I said I haven't done a lot of short form video myself.
What I have noticed is, like, when I interview a lot of e-commerce businesses, some businesses have like a person or the founder themselves that have, naturally engaging personality, and they are able to. It's like it almost feels effortless, right? And
Yeah,
and I don't know how much time they spend on creating that video that feels effortless, but it almost to me it feels like there's some personality elements or some personality types naturally are, it's easy for them to build those kind of videos versus others who can put a lot of thought, put a lot of polish it a lot, but and still the output is flat. Um,
yeah.
what does your team look like right now?
So most of our team is based in Vancouver. So we again, I think I want to say we're 8-person team now. So it's myself, and my business partner. As I said, I run the SEO team. I've 3 gals that work under me. My business partner runs the Google Ads team. He's got a guy who works under him, and then Jen, who is our lead web developer. She has someone that works under her. So that's kind of our structure. Is, again, that's one of the benefits, I guess, that we see of working with us, is that you are working with, um, you're not being assigned to an account rep, or who often, frankly, like, again, at bigger agencies, sometimes the account reps just they don't have marketing experience. Their experience is managing accounts, and not necessarily executing on actual strategies, or even developing strategies sometimes. So yeah, that's kind of how we're laid out. We've grown quite a bit in the last year and a half. Um, and so we're continuing to kind of add, and that's kind of how we'll continue to add. Maybe at some point we'll put, a GM in place to help kind of oversee those three sort of teams. But I kind of foresee for the sort of, at least in the foreseeable future, this kind of structure that's worked well for us, which allows us to really have, yeah, just a lot of oversight on each campaign, and making sure that they're running as we would want them to run.
Talking about marketing agencies, of course, there are so many options out there available in the market, and different marketing agencies have different specializations. Some marketing agencies focus on different industries, verticals, different kind of businesses. if you were to define your marketing agency, somebody's looking for um, an agency to help their business, what would you say is the unique value proposition that your agency brings, that separates you from like other options that are available in the city or in the market and so forth?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we do good work for fair prices and we're transparent about it. That's ultimately what we're providing. That's the service we're providing. We have, we've got a fairly good grasp in terms of, the types of clients that make sense for us to work with. Um, we don't have any one specific industry concentration. That being said, like I think our biggest industry concentration is self-storage. We've gotten a lot of self-storage guys off Twitter. So thank you, self-storage guys on Twitter. Um, and but other than that, we work with renovation companies, we work with HVAC companies, we work with I'm trying to think of what other industries, dentists, optometrists, really anything local service based. And then we have some kind of oddball ones as well, as I was saying, like the healthcare company that we're doing content marketing for. That's very much like I don't know why they went with us, to be honest with you, when they did, probably because we were really cheap. But like, again, we've really demonstrated our value there. We tend to look at marketing campaigns and just have a really good understanding of, the opportunities that are needed. And again, it's at the end of the day, if you have a bad business, and by bad business, let's say if your business isn't very profitable, SEO is not going to solve that. If you have no clients, SEO is probably not going to really solve that. Like SEO is SEO, Google Ads, your website. Those are all kind of pieces of the puzzle. And SEO doesn't, a lot. Sometimes we will have clients come to us, and it's, the expectation is that we're essentially going to drive all the leads for them, and it's just a really bad way to approach it. You need to have referral business. You need to be generating reviews, which again, we can help with and, help you understand how to do that. But ultimately, that's a system that's automated. You probably want to look at other marketing channels as well. And yeah, so I mean, as I said, I love working with businesses that have other marketing channels figured out. Because we're a piece of the puzzle, and ultimately, if you're coming in and you're starting a new business and you think that an SEO agency is going to build that business for you, it's probably unrealistic. And you see all the time where guys get burnt. They hire a lead gen company for $5,000 a month and it doesn't produce the results they want. And like anytime I see that kind of those sort of claims, my spidey senses go off, because it rarely is the case where you can say, okay, I have one marketing channel, that's all I do, and that's my entire business. It's usually kind of an omni-channel approach, and definitely, having a good reputation, having good reviews, having referrals is, like, for any local business, is incredibly important. And actually, it's the one reason we actually do like working with self-storage companies so much too, is because that's like the one industry where it's basically SEO, Google Ads, drive-by traffic, and that's all you need. Like that's your whole business, that's your whole marketing plan, then you're done. And ideally, as I said, there's other operational pieces to it, like, again, collecting reviews, picking up the phone, things like that. But as far as marketing goes, that one tends to be really simple compared to a lot of other businesses.
Definitely. Um, Looking forward in the future, what is your vision for your business? Do you want to continue just building on, you said your business has grown quite a bit over the last year and a half. Do you want to continue just growing uh, the businesses the same way, or are you thinking of adding new marketing services, marketing channels, and so forth? How do you see your business, let's say 5 years down the road?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of view, myself, my business partner, I think we both say the same thing. We sort of view ourselves as, um, I think someone on Twitter said this the other day, but they're talking about parallel entrepreneurship. So right now our focus is the agency, and it's going to be our focus for the foreseeable future. But if we were to come back and talk in 10 or 15 years, my guess is I've probably done something else completely different as well. And whether whether Saltwater Digital is still around, I have no idea. Obviously, a lot of things can happen, right? But is that, the sort of 3-5 year vision right now is to continue to grow Saltwater Digital. I don't know what I don't know if at some point we'll cap it and we'll say, you know what, it's enough. We're comfortable. Um, you know, we're able to serve our clients really well, and we just don't need more growth. Um, part of the thing that I think that makes us unique is that we are a small team, and so there's definitely fear that if you kind of grow into one of these, I can tell you for like a fact that I don't want it to ever grow into a 50 or 100 person agency.
Mm,
I just don't like the way that those businesses operate. And I know there's really good ones out there, but they're killers because like to run an agency with 50 or 100 people just requires and to run it to because a lot of those types of businesses um, they don't necessarily provide the best service. They're more almost lead generation businesses where in the sense that they're generating leads for themselves. But we get it
mm,
so often where some of these companies, they're working with a larger agency that's got 25 or 40 or 100 people that work for them. And they just feel like they've been left out in the wind and they get, almost no attention to their campaigns and they're frustrated and they come to us. Like that happens all the time.
mm.
And so we don't really ever want to get to that point. Um, and yeah, so I think that's kind of where we're at right now. We're going to keep growing this thing. We're really loving what we're doing right now. It's in a really, really good spot. And yeah, we'll probably get it to a point where, you know, um, one of the things that we always do every year is this is so random, but we do Christmas parties kind of offsite. So we've gone to Mexico, we've done a trip to the Yukon, we've done Disneyland. And if our team gets too big to be able to do those types of things, then we're probably too big. That's
Mm.
probably the limit. Because once we can't do kind of fun things anymore with our team, it probably becomes a little bit too impersonal.
Yeah, that's definitely very important. Um, in every entrepreneur's journey, there's always mistakes made, lessons learned, failures. You've been running your business for the last 9 years or so. What has been your biggest lessons or failures that that was a teaching moment for you? What did you learn? What can other entrepreneurs learn from your mistakes?
Yeah. Yeah. In terms of failures, lessons learned. One of the things that I think is really important as kind of an entrepreneur is finding a fit that makes sense for you. I mentioned this as kind of the start of our conversation, but we built up and we ran two really substantially sized e-commerce. I shouldn't say really substantially, fairly substantially sized e-commerce business, much bigger than our marketing agency in terms of revenue,
Mm,
in terms of profit, et cetera. Um, and we ended up selling the second one just because I was really, really miserable. Um, and it was incredibly stressful. I was having panic attacks. It just wasn't a good fit. Um, and obviously it was nice because it was an e-commerce business, which it sounds like you've talked to a lot of e-commerce business founders. It's an easy business to sell and get good multiples on, and it's not doesn't require it's I'm not the face of it, I'm not the sales machine, etc. Right?
mm,
So we were able to sell that business, but um, I just found that it wasn't really a good fit for my personality type. Um, you know, so I just think, yeah, I think that's probably one of the things that we really look at now. That's really important is just making sure that there is some semblance of balance and doing something that actually is enjoyable. Um, because I think there's a lot of easier ways to make money than building a business or building a company. Most small business owners, most entrepreneurs, they're not going to get incredibly wealthy. They're going to be as wealthy
mm,
as their next door neighbor, who probably is a lawyer or maybe is an engineer or whatever it might be. Um, and candidly, it's probably a lot more hours and a lot more stressful to do this than it is to,
mm,
work for a Fortune 500 company. And that's not to say that's not that those jobs are easy or they're not hard or they don't require certain talents, but I just do think that there's probably easier, less stressful ways to make money. And if you're going to kind of go down the path of entrepreneurship, find something that you actually want to do, every day.
definitely, yeah. A lot of the e-commerce businesses that I talk to, that's why they sell products that they have certain personal alignment with or passionate about, so that it's
Yeah.
not just about the business, it's something that they're passionate about. So I think
Yeah.
that definitely helps. So now we're going to move on to our rapid fire segment. In this segment, I'm
Okay.
going to ask you a few quick questions and you have to answer them maybe in a sentence or a few words. The first one is a book recommendation for entrepreneurs or business professionals, and why?
Um, I read a lot, but it's funny because I think back about the number of books I can recall. Honestly, I think like for me, regardless of whether you're an entrepreneur or you work a 9 to 5, I think sort of foundational personal finance books are probably like the one thing that everybody should read, whether it's um, yeah, and also the Alchemist I really like. I've read that a few times.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so I think those are probably, as I said, I don't have a business book that I was like that changed my life.
Any personal finance book that comes to mind, or
Um, yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, as much as I dislike the guy, probably Dave Ramsey's books. But what was the first book he wrote called? Or not Dave Ramsey. Oh shoot, I can't remember what his name is. Maybe we can link in the show notes. I'll look it up after.
Robert Kiyosaki? No.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Think and Grow Rich or Grow Rich. Yeah, so I
Yeah, yeah,
read
yeah.
that 18, and I think that was something that was, again, I don't particularly like the guy for reasons that have nothing to do with the book. But I shouldn't say I don't like him. I don't know him, but as far as his personal brand, let's put it that way, I don't particularly love it. But yeah,
Yeah. Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Um,
Thank you.
yeah. An innovative product or idea that you currently feel excited about.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody should be kind of tinkering around with the AI to some extent. I think it's overhyped, but I think it is something that's, it's kind of the hype cycle where I think it's a little bit overhyped, but again, I think there's going to be a ton of applications and a ton of value that kind of come out of it. And so as I said, regardless of what industry you're in, there's something that AI can do for you. And it's just about
To me,
figuring out
it's
what that is.
it seems like I mean I don't know. It's I mean of course we don't know much about AI, but when I watch like some of these interviews with Sam Altman, which is who's the CEO of OpenAI, or some of these other entrepreneurs talking about it, to me it seems like they know something like in the back end. It's like they've released kind of the tip of the iceberg, and we are just getting a taste of it, and they know something that we don't know, like the real power of it. And so I mean I
Yeah.
don't know, maybe maybe
Hopefully not on the
there's
scary side.
yeah. A business or productivity tool or software that you would recommend, or a productivity tip.
Um, yeah, again, same thing. Productivity tools. I'm not a big productivity tool guy. Honestly, the thing that I think I use more than anything that's done more for me than anything is I use a notebook called Little More, which is basically just it's a day planner. And it's like, lets me basically so every day I'll go through and I'll, have the three things that I want to get done. And then I'll regardless of and the thing I like about it is it's blank. So it's not like 8 a.m., 9 a.m. So if my day starts at 7, I can put 7. If my day starts at 9, I can put 9, and then I can kind of
Hmm.
go through and fill it out then, or sometimes I'll do it the night before. That's really the only productivity tool I use in terms of trying to keep myself on track. Otherwise, it's just the usual, so.
Any other startup or business that you think is currently doing great things?
Um, One person that I really have liked following and that I've had a nice, I've had a chance to work with him a little bit is Josh at Storage HQ. I really respect the way that he does business. He's super genuine. I'm giving him a shout out here because he's again, so it's at Storage HQ. Is his Twitter. He's just like the most genuine, nicest guy, and he's just super interesting. So that's my shout out. Yeah.
Okay. Um, I was going to ask a peer entrepreneur or business person whom you look up to or someone who inspires you. Would you name the same person or someone else?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's who I'd name for that as well.
Okay.
So what was the previous one? A business that
A startup or business that you think is currently doing great things. So any other business that, maybe you use the product, or, you think their vision is really great, that you kind of admire?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a bit of a strange answer because it's so globally recognized, but I feel like WordPress and automatic
Mm,
in general doesn't get its fair due. Like that is the most incredible platform. And it's not an afterthought. It's obviously not an afterthought. Everyone builds their websites on it, but it's like
mm,
it's not talked about in the same regard as maybe some of the other
mm,
um, and maybe it was when it first came out. I don't know, but yeah, I think WordPress is grossly underappreciated. I think it's so cool that they kept it open source. You never hear anything about them, stripping away or increasing fees to use the platform in terms of like, I know recently, like with some of the AI scraping, for instance, there's a lot of noise around like Twitter's, their API fees have gone through the roof. And I think Reddit maybe was the same thing. I can't remember, but
mm.
yeah, WordPress has kept it at open source and they've kept it accessible for small businesses since day one, and that's cool.
Yeah, I think a huge success story for open software, open product. Yeah,
Totally.
WordPress is
Yeah,
huge. Yeah,
it's incredible.
and huge community. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
final question: best business advice you ever received, or you would give to other entrepreneurs?
I think I kind of touched on this earlier, right? I mean, I think at the end of the day, you got to find a way to make money if you're starting as an entrepreneur, and you got to do what you got to do. But um, if it's making you miserable or you're stressed out all the time, like I think in my opinion, there's just easier ways to make money. Um, so yeah, I think I'd stick with that one.
Well, that's definitely a great advice. Well, Dan, thank you so much for sharing your story. Going from being an engineer to a business person, definitely an interesting story there. And yeah, for sharing some of the marketing strategies, your thoughts on SEO and where it is going. So yeah, thank you so much again for joining me today at Trip Talk. If anybody wants to get in touch or want to inquire about your services, what is the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, saltwaterdigital.com is our agency website. And then I'm active on Twitter at Dan the Wolf. So WOLFE. So it's yeah, that's probably the best way to get in touch. You can DM me or give me a follow on there and I'll probably follow you back. So yeah,
Awesome. Well, Dan, thank you so much again. Thank you for sharing the story. Really appreciate it, and wish you all the best in your business.
thanks so much. Thanks for having me on.